Hey there, I'm Ben and I'm a GI fellow and I'm also a new dad. My daughter was born a little over a week ago. She's my first child, but I knew to expect a lot of sleepless nights after she was born. Mainly because that's what everyone loves to warn you about when you tell them your wife is pregnant. I was expecting to have some level of inherent preparation for this sleeplessness based on the fact that I'm a doctor. Doctors, for better or for worse, are expected to do a lot of their work while sleep deprived. So the question is, which is worse, the sleep deprivation for being on call overnight as a doctor or for caring for a newborn as a new parent? And more importantly, did my doctor experience prepare me for parenthood? So let's talk about my doctor experience first. In my internal medicine residency, I worked about 6 weeks of nights a year. That means I show up at 5 p.m., work all night, usually not sleeping much if any, and then I go home at 7 a.m. I wasn't on call, so I could simply sleep when I got home and I could switch my day and night schedules to, in theory, live a backwards life for 2 weeks with a normal amount of sleep. The problem is your body doesn't like doing that and it takes time to make that switch, and life continues to go on around you while you're on nights, so you try and cheat and stay up for some daytime activities too. The result is that you're definitely more tired than usual while you're working nights. It's hard to sleep while it's light out, and you get a little delirious or discombobulated from doing your normal routines backwards. So what about 24-hour call? Luckily in my residency that was rare, but I did about 5 of these per year. Fun fact, the first time in my entire life that I stayed up for 24 hours straight was while I was an intern working in the ICU. Working 24 hours is tough. Basically you work a normal day and then starting at 5 p.m. you become the night person, because you're basically giving the usual night person the day off. You get tired, you lose focus. I found myself getting really shaky around hour 20. You kind of feel sick and there's certain anxiety associated with it too. Knowing that you're watching over 30 critically ill ICU patients while struggling to keep your eyes open puts a special type of pressure on yourself. But the nice thing is you have a golden finish line, 7 a.m. You're working for that finish line and you know that no one can call you after that and you aren't responsible for anything after that and you can sleep, even for 20 hours straight if you want. Now what about currently? I'm a GI fellow right now. As a GI fellow, things are a little bit different. When we're on call, we have worked a full day in the hospital like usual, and most times we can go home at 5 p.m. However, all night we have to be available to answer calls from the hospital, the ER, patients at home, the transfer center looking to bring sick GI patients to our hospital. Sometimes we have to go back in and see sick patients, sometimes not. Sometimes we're getting called every hour, sometimes not. You might get a call at 2 a.m., deal with that for 30 minutes, then go back to bed only to be woken up at 3:30 a.m. with a critically ill patient in the ER and have to get up, get dressed, go in and see them. Or you might get 0 calls from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. and get a decent night's sleep. That uncertainty can be really anxiety-provoking on its own because you really don't know what to expect. It could be awful, it could be fine. But what's tough is that you don't have that 7 a.m. golden finish line anymore. The on-call period ends at 7 a.m., but then I have to go into work the day shift, regardless of how busy the night was. In rare exceptions, someone can cover for you if you have the worst night in history, but mostly you have to power through and work the day on minimal sleep. Now, as you might imagine, none of these really compare to parenting a newborn. Being on call as a GI fellow is maybe the most similar, but parenting is a different beast. Newborn babies wake up every 2 to 3 hours to feed overnight, so sleep is not easy to come by. The main difference from being on call is that your call shift ends. Even if you have to work the next day after your call night, you know that you'll be free the next night and you can sleep in as much as you want. With the baby, it doesn't quite work that way. The baby needs you now and will keep needing you for years to come. This is a person that you're gonna have to keep alive consistently. It may be just one person compared to dozens that I'm keeping alive in the hospital, but you're a little bit more invested in this one. And the patients in the hospital are only your responsibility for a certain amount of time. Both of them trigger anxiety in their own ways. As a parent, you're constantly dealing with situations you don't know quite how to deal with, much like in medicine, but in the hospital, you usually have a senior resident or an attending readily available to turn to, which is not necessarily the case with your baby. Sure, you can call the doctor or your mom, but it's a little bit different. Staying up with a baby is exhausting because of how unpredictable it can be. Like I said, newborns don't sleep for more than 3 hours at a time, and often that's even generous. Both types of sleeplessness can cause me to question my sanity at times, unsure what time it is, going from a dead sleep to dealing with a crisis at a moment's notice. Complex cognitive thought is difficult either way, but I find that the sleeplessness of being a parent runs a little bit deeper. Honestly, both will make you get up for silly reasons. I was woken up at 3 a.m. once while I was on call by the lab calling for a critical lab value that was actually for the kidney team, not the GI team. For the baby, I'm routinely waking up to replace a pacifier that she lacks the dexterity to place back into her own mouth, even though that's literally the only thing she wants in the entire world. But the baby is cute, and the person calling me at 3 a.m. from the lab is not cute. So I think that's the big difference. Often in the hospital overnight, you're just trying to survive and avoid crises. For better or for worse, we often try to push things to the morning that can safely wait to protect our sanity and our sleep. With parenting a newborn, you're more invested and you have so much more responsibility. It makes you more tired and more stressed at first, but over time you appreciate it much more than you appreciate overnight calls in the hospital. So wish me luck.